Hello and what is up guys, Arai here and welcome back to some more automation and BeamNG.Drive. Before the video begins guys, I just have one quick announcement to make. I have the potential to do a Q&A style interview video with Automation's lead designer Kilrob. Now there's going to be a link to a Reddit thread down below where you can actually submit questions for us to hopefully talk about and answer in an upcoming video if we get enough questions. Please do make sure to check if your question has already been asked and hopefully answered. There's going to be a FAQ page for automation linked in the description, as well as also on the Reddit post that I'm posting down below as well. Without further ado guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. You might be able to tell by the title of the video, we are making a super sleeper supercar. I don't know what you want to call it. We are making a very high performance car in a very low performance body. So this car is going to be a total rice box sleeper. So it's going to be a, late 90s, early 2000s style. It's going to be 2005 in our game. Small economy car, but with a surprise underneath the hood. So actually, I did manage to get a pretty big engine into this car. It is going to be a rear-wheel drive, and we'll go through all the stuff. I had to choose all the stuff before I started. I just wanted to make sure what I wanted was going to work. So it is going to work. As you can see here, it is partial aluminum panels, monocoque chassis, of course, light AHS steel, so nothing crazy expensive. It's going to be a very fast car. I didn't want to make an actual race car. I don't want to say it would have been too easy, but I think it would be less fun if I made a car that was just impossible. What I'm imagining for this build is someone took a very small hatchback, which is what we're taking, and pretty much completely drivetrain swapped the thing and made it into a performance car or a drag car or something. This thing is going to be absolutely insane. So front-mounted longitudinal engine. It's going to be double wishbone front and multi-link rear. So we're going to assume, because this car probably wouldn't have had multi-link or double wishbone at all, probably would have had struts, McPherson struts, front and rear, something like that. Let's assume that they swapped everything over suspension. Basically, they just took the body off the chassis, which you can't do because it's monocoque, but we're going to say they did. Anyways, engine. So I got the base stuff down for the engine. I'm not modeling the engine off anything in particular. It's going to be, of course, a twin turbocharged V8 because that's just perfect, obviously. It's going to be basically a drag car. It's going to be a straight line machine. 6.4 liters, all aluminum pushrod V8 engine. We could do dual verticam, but pushrod just seems more American. So, and that's what this is. I'm not American, obviously, but it is an Americanized monstrosity. Look at that engine base specs. It doesn't fit. It fits, of course, not well. We're gonna go with just to start off cast iron everything. It's gonna be low revving, big American V8. We're gonna go down to 9:1 compression, VVT and TwinTurbo performance. Now for the actual performance numbers of this engine, I'm hoping in between, I'd say 500 and 1,000 horsepower. A rough estimate. 800 would be a perfect for me. Dual injection per cylinder race. I think performance. I don't want it to be screaming loud. It's gonna be very loud. I want this car streetable if they want it. Super fuel. One of the only cars we need super fuel for a while. Bypass valves, dual overhead. Let's do high flow three-way. We're gonna do straight through and then no third. We're gonna do keep it all. I don't really choose much mufflers besides high flow and straight through. In some cars I will, some cars I won't. We're gonna keep it. So what are we looking at numbers wise? Let's change this to forged internals. We're getting there. Titanium forged, that seems so crazy. You know what? That's fine. So right now we're making a ton of torque. We're on performance tuning out. The intercooler really small. A lot of torque. Easy. Put the boost up to a nice 23 psi. Lower the ignition timing down to 0. Right now we're making 43 psi boost. At 3,400 RPM, making a ton of torque, 400 horsepower. It's not really acceptable in my books. We're going to increase the AR ratio. Of course, the power is going to be made later, but we'll make a lot more of it. And then we'll increase it. And fuel mixture. So this is going to be a very expensive engine. I'm not going to increase the sliders. This is not going to be $1 million car. This is a project car gone wrong. Serious number. 70, 775. You know what? I like that number right there. 12.3% fuel efficiency is terrible. Not as bad as I thought, honestly. It's not that bad. The cost, quite expensive, of course. This is a twin turbo V8, 670 horse, 775 torque. This thing, oh, look at that. It doesn't fit at all. That's fine. We're not going to listen to the engine. It's going to be a complete surprise in BeamNG. That's fine. And we're doing the very, very smallest body. Ooh, or should we do the van? No. Oh. No. We'll keep it. Oh, no, we'll keep it. So, I'll design the car after, obviously. We're going to do a rear-wheel drive. It's going to be a... This is where, you know, this is where it comes to a crossroads, I guess. Sequential or manual? We're going to go with manual for now. 6-speed manual. Electric limited slip diff. This is going to be mostly a straight line car, but it's going to do some other things to it for us. It's radials, of course, semi-slicks, 285. Jesus. Oh my gosh. Actually, the front tires. Like, 235 is a pretty respectable size for tires. One thing I wish they would change to update is, or not update, wish they would add is different sizes for front and rear. Because it wasn't crazy out of the ordinary to have different size tires front and rear. Lots of cars have that. Lots of non-expensive, or not crazy expensive. Alloy rims, like any realistic car, of course. Magnesium, no one really uses that in the mid-2000s. 4 pistons, it's got massive brakes. So 4 pistons front and rear for now, massive. We're just going to do fully clad cooling flaps. I'm going to see what economy this thing gets to. I'm not shooting for that. 2-seater only. Let's do basic. And no power steering, that's been deleted. No traction aids, that's been deleted. And then the best safety, of course. No, maybe that take away 5. So that they ripped out some of the interior safety. It's legal, but you know, if you get pulled over, it's not really legal anymore. Progressive semi-active, and so bit of a better look at that. 3,070 pounds, pretty heavy. It gets 8.7 miles per gallon stock. Perfect. Lack of weight and power steering. Wheel spin issues. Yeah, I'd imagine there's some issues with wheel spin. Cost you 360. That is fun. It's gonna hit that probably no problem. We're lower down a bit though. It's gonna need some sort of aero. I think 350 actually. We're gonna keep it. I think actually just over 55. I don't want to tell wheel spin. Let's a little less. I've actually. And I'm gonna grease the slider on the tires because it's gonna need. I want to pop wheelies. I want this thing to do wheelies. It's not a race car, but it is a drivetrain swapped Prius. Not Prius, but you know, it's a drivetrain swapped, like whatever ecobox this thing is. I don't even know. Like this is like a, I don't know if you know what model of car this is based off of. Let me know. I'd really appreciate it. What else are we gonna do? So brakes, they're not bad. 6 piston anywhere. Weight distribution's awful. That's probably because there's a 6.4 liter V8. Do you want power steering? Actually, it's yelling at me. It's just basic hydraulic, sure. That was one less thing yelling at me. That's great. Miles per gallon improved. I like that, even though it didn't. Yeah, more comfortable. That's good. Look at that. Look at that. It just says oversteer, oversteer, oversteer. Over 90 kilometers an hour. Let's see. Steering fast. Tons of understeer. No oversteer at all. Which is good. It's safe. It's safe in quotations. This seems to be just terrifying. I'm actually gonna make the rear tires a bit more. Basically, some Mickey Thompson drag radials in the rear. You can't make it any bigger. I think 15-inch rims. 6. Okay. So we have the basic design for the car here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to design this little beast. It's going to be a streetable car. It's going to be a slightly riced out, not tons of ricers, so it's going to be slightly modified visually, ecobox with a surprise underneath. That's what I'm going for this. So don't expect it to be too crazy, but I'm going to have a time-lapse of me actually designing the car. It'll be a quicker one because it's not too complicated. Probably, I have no idea what I'm going to do for it yet. I just sort of jumped into this, guys. And then after that, I'm also going to tune all the suspension bits and the actual car itself. I want to get the weight down just a bit. Maybe it might do some sort of, not carbon fiber, but maybe something else. We'll see. And then after all that stuff, we are going to test the vehicle in BeamNG.Drive to see if it can pull wheelies. So I'll see you guys in just a sec. Alright guys, so the vehicle is done. I have called it the TwinTurbros, so this is what the car is sort of based off. I'm not sure if it's an actual Maven car, which is, you know, my company in the game, I guess. But it is a car, nonetheless, with Maven badges. Sure, it is called a Tetra. It is a cheap economy car, basically. Some design cues, so I look towards cars like the Toyota IQ, Toyota Yaris, and basically any Toyota from the mid-2000s, because that's just completely boring. But I also took some inspiration, of course, this being a big old V8 engine. I took some inspiration, when designing this, actually. Not really from the design, but from the engine and stuff. From the Aston Martin Signet V8. So I'll put a picture on the screen now. So in the mid-2000s, I think it was late 2000s, Aston Martin made a small, I think it was a little two-seater econobox, basically around this size, a little bit smaller than this probably. Front engine, rear-wheel drive V8. Anyways, so ours is now a 6-speed sequential gearbox, so it is more of a race transmission. I did it 1 because the whine just sounds awesome. You can't fault that. And for 2, because it just be a bit better of a transmission. I'm actually going to increase it just a bit. 825 torque and 825 horse and 903 pound-feet of torque. So looking at the design quickly before we jump into BeamNG. There was some collision issues, of course, because there's a massive radiator for this beast, massive engine in general. Everything's just massive with this car. And it is sticking out right here in the front. I was contemplating having like a clear grille. Even when I go into BeamNG, it just looks odd, so I decided let's just keep it as a regular grille. It's gonna look stupid regardless. That's fine, this car is all about stupid. So it is probably the most basic car I've ever made in automation ever. Just kidding, it's probably one of them for sure though. I usually don't make mid-2000s anything because they are just freaking boring, regardless of what you do. Name one crazy-looking car from the mid-2000s. You know what? Don't actually do that because it probably is. Anyways, guys, so it's got some nice, cutesy style headlights, nice little small, almost like a V-shaped grille. One big hood bulge scoop here, not functional, just for looks, obviously. This car's got to look, how it performs awesomely, right? And besides this, this front grille, everything, I imagine this car is basically just like a stock performance trim, basically. So it is the most boring color ever, like a skin peach. I don't know, really, really ugly. I mean, not ugly, objectively ugly color. Basically, it's like a stock car, except for the front spoiler, the little grill area here, this extra grill with the hood scoop, the ribs, obviously, the tires, and then the back is pretty much a wide body. I'm not sure, very flush with the actual body panels, and I don't know, don't ask me how they did it. The rear is where things get a bit more interesting. So there's a very thick vehicle, definitely a aftermarket rear diffuser here, basically. So you have a reverse light nice in the center, and then this is basically supposed to be like an extra brake light or a reflector or what have you, and then the brake lights in here. The TwinTurbo badging, a little bit of an indentation where the actual release is for the hatch. And as you can see, a massive, massive wing, pretty much like a table on the back of this car. We can look at the arrow real quick here. So things I did change, obviously, I just made a crazy arrow. It is very, very understeery at high speeds, which is fine. I want this thing to be, I want to say drivable, but it's not going to be drivable. I want it to be somewhat drivable. High speeds, it's going to be crazy regardless. Might as well just make it, I want to make it pop wheelies. I want this car to pop wheelies if possible. This doesn't really matter for wheelies because it's all high-speed stuff, but still. Thick tires in the rear. I also tuned the suspension a bit off camera. So I made the rear pretty, not stiff, what's the opposite of stiff? Pretty soft, I guess. And the front quite stiff. I did play around with it a bit and test it out just a bit just to see how stiff, how soft it could be. It may or may not be able to pop wheelies. It's gonna be iffy. Maybe the sequential will help, but I don't know. I was contemplating doing carbon fiber panels, but I think I'm against it. It's just too crazy. So anyways, guys, we are going to jump into BeamNG.Drive and see how this thing performs. Now, before we begin the actual first test of this vehicle, we are just going to hear how the engine sounds. So I'm just going to start it up right here. In neutral. It's in neutral now. It is very crazy sounding. It's definitely not what you expect for a small little hatchback. We can actually look at the looks here. The design of the car. It is, again, a lot more subtle than any car I've made on this channel, at least. Yeah, the the intercooler sticks out there. It's not great, but what are you gonna do? I think the car, yeah, I think actually it looks, it's a pretty cute little car. I think the back end's nice. Headlights are good for it and everything. Of course, it's one of the less designed cars I've made, but it's supposed to be a cheap car. It's not supposed to be a nice car. So we're gonna start off doing a drag race now, see what we can get. I'm shooting for 10 seconds-ish. I've done a few tests before. Look at that back end squat. This suspension's way too soft. It's so... Yeah, 11 seconds, 10, 9, 9. And we're just gonna restart that and do one more try. Could we get less than 10, 9, 9? Look at the back end. When you have too much grip and too soft suspension, that is terrible. It's so bad. It's so great. It's perfect. 11.1. I think always the first one was always the best for me. We're gonna free Roma now. Oh my god, the brakes! Oh my god! Oh my god! It's so awful, this car. All the weight's in the front, but the suspension in the back's too soft. So there's no, I think it's front heavy still. When braking, the back end loses traction, obviously, because it lifts off the ground. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, this is awful. It's so perfect. Nope. See, the wing actually helps quite a bit. There's quite a bit of downforce action on this little car here. I mean, I say little, it still weighs like, oh gosh. It still weighs like 3,000 or so pounds. You know, I think this could actually be like a nice little hot hatch design. I am doing a hot hatch challenge next with Canadian Steel. So, it's not going to be this vehicle at all. It's going to be an early 2000s hot hatch. Mine's going to be designed off of a first generation. Is it first generation? Not first generation, but the first generation Honda Civic Type R, sort of design-wise. So the small hatch, it's going to be much lighter than this thing. Of course, front-wheel drive, etc. That'll probably in a few days or so. Today is, yeah, probably the weekend it'll be out, maybe. I'm trying to post a bit more often and stuff. And, you know, like always is, if you have more ideas, let me know. After this, and after the next challenge, which is next, so it's gonna go this, then a challenge, a few challenge videos, maybe something between, will be, a super truck or a sport truck from the late 2000s, mid 2000s, I think. I haven't just, you know, V10 or maybe V8 or something like that. It's just gonna be a high performance pickup truck. Of course, maybe rear all-wheel drive. I'm not sure. If you have more ideas, guys, let me know in the comments down below. I want to make a modern luxury sedan. That's on the list. Like a modern executive sedan. Like a BMW 7 Series or a S-Class competitor kind of thing. So, basically a barge. Maybe a Rolls-Royce competitor. Just a barge with a ton of power. Also just a cruiser. Not like this thing at all. This is the exact opposite. But, let me know down below. And, you know, also, as always, I appreciate all the comments and stuff and the feedback you guys give me and stuff. I appreciate it a lot. I always try to read every message and respond to every message. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And as always, I'll see you next time.